All right, third graders, we are going to get started today drawing cones. This is so cool. I love third grade because we start drawing three-dimensional forms rather than just shapes. So we're going to start to make our drawings look three-dimensional, and this is one of those projects. We're going to draw a cone to draw our teepees. So I want you to start thinking about how we can make those look round rather than flat. We're also going to pay attention to the three elements of a landscape, that foreground, middle ground, background. I want to see one thing in each of those. So I should see something in the foreground, something in the middle ground, something in the background. In my example, you saw I had mountains in the background. In the middle ground, there were some trees and there was a teepee, and then in the foreground, there was a person and another teepee. So you can do multiples of the same object if you want. If you want to do all teepees and all three, that's fine. But remember, as things get farther back, they get smaller. So the teepee in the middle ground should be smaller than the teepee in the foreground. And the teepee in the background should be smaller than the teepee in the middle ground. So that we get that sense that things are going farther away and they're getting smaller and going far, far away. All right. So focus on your cones this week. Focus on your drawings. Focus on that horizon line where the sky meets the land. And next week we will focus on adding color. So just drawing this week. Have fun. And I can't wait to see what you do. All right. Bye, guys.
All right, my friends. We are going to start working on our Native American landscape. So the first thing I'm going to do is put in my horizon line. That's the line where the land meets the sky. I'm going to put mine up fairly high and light with my pencil. I'm not going to draw real heavy. The next thing I'm going to do is put in my teepees. So remember, those are cones. And we can practice drawing those on a piece of scrap paper or even on the back if you want. When we're drawing our teepees or our cones, we are going to start with an ellipse shape. So float your pencil over your paper and practice drawing that oval. That's called an ellipse. We're going to draw a little dot in the center and go straight up from there and draw another dot. And then we'll connect the edges like so. And we have our cone. So now this would be a see-through cone. If we wanted to make it look like it's a solid cone, we would erase that back line so you can see. I'll trace it with a Sharpie so you can see it better. We have our straight lines. And then we have that curve from our ellipse. Now if we flip it over, we can see that it could be an ice cream cone, it could be a party hat, it could be a teepee. In our case, that's what they will be. So we're going to practice one more time. We're going to float our pencil, draw our ellipse. Practice a couple times before you start your final. Put that dot in the middle, go straight up, put a second dot. We're going to connect the two edges with a straight line. Now to get the door of our teepee, we're going to put in parallel lines to here. So just another little triangle off the front. Because the door of our teepee is open, we can see inside here. So we're only going to erase these side bits. We don't want to erase the floor line inside because if the door is open, we can see the floor. Okay, so now you can kind of see. I'll trace it with Sharpie again. So you can see, if you want, we can erase this front line. You can see how it's open. And we see that back line. Now if you wanted to, you could add the sticks at the top to make it look a little bit more realistic. You could add a flap to make it look like this triangle door has come open. Like if we just flip that over, we could put like a little tie here or something. Okay, and then if you wanted to add those symbols, we could do something like that. Maybe I'll just do the symbol for friendship, which was that cross arrow. So we'll draw an X, and we'll draw the points of the arrow, and then there were the points of the arrow at the bottom. Okay, so that's my friendship tent. Okay, so I want to see 2 teepees on your landscape and at least 2 other things. Could be an animal, it could be another landscape item like a tree or a bush or a river or mountains, but I want to see something in the foreground, which is the front, something in the middle ground, and something in the background. So I'm going to start with that horizon line where the land meets the sky. I'm going to go ahead and add some mountains. I'm going to make them sort of come off the page. Okay, I've got my little mountain range. Maybe I'll make this mountain come up front. Make that one go behind it. I'm going to put my teepee up front. I'm going to put a big one up front here because things that are closer are larger. I'm going to go ahead and float my pencil, draw my ellipse, draw my dot in the center, go straight up, bring it down and down. I'm going to erase that back line and the dot inside. And then maybe I'll just go ahead and darken that up a little. Add my sticks. Make it look a little bit more realistic. I could add my symbols. So I've got the symbol for running water. Got that symbol for happiness and sunshine. Okay, and then I could even do something more abstract if you wanted to. Okay, one teepee done. Now I'm going to do another teepee over here. I'm going to make a little river come through my picture. So there's one extra element. Remember, it's going to be smaller in the back and larger as it gets closer, because anything back here, as far away it gets closer. So now I have my mountains in the background. My river is in my middle ground and in my foreground. So I have 2 elements and I have my one teepee. I'm going to draw another teepee over here. A little smaller because it's in my middle ground. Put that dot in the middle, go straight up, bring it down and down. And maybe this one I'll do open. So I'll put that triangle in to show the door is open. And then I'll just erase the back line here, the back line here, and the front line in the middle. And if I wanted to add those poles, I could. Okay, so I've got a good start to my drawing. It still looks pretty plain. So if I wanted to add other items, I could. This is the bare minimum, okay? 2 teepees and 2 elements on your page. And so I have mountains and a river. The other thing I want to see is something in the background, something in the middle ground, and something in the foreground. Now you can always add more. So I'm going to add a little campfire here. Put in my logs. I'm going to put in my flames here. I'll color these more. I'm done. Just sort of getting the general shape in there. Maybe I'll put a little bear back here. So I've got a bear. Get his ears. Get his body. Like he's walking towards me. That would be pretty scary, but we'll make our bear smiley. Okay, so now I've got a little bear smiling towards me. You could draw people if you want. You could draw other animals. In the sample I showed you before, there was a horse. You could draw, there were some meats drying. We showed that where we had the poles with the meat. Right, the X's that held up the poles. And we had some little meats hanging over the edge here. Remember, this looks very different once it's colored in. We're just sort of getting those place markers put in. We'll put our pole in. Our pole isn't really a stick, it's three-dimensional, so we want to make sure that we have all those double lines put in. Just like our person wasn't a stick person. Okay, so now you can see my piece is getting a lot more interesting. I know it's hard to see because of the pencil. But you can see I've got mountains in the background. I've got my two teepees. I've got some meat smoking. I've got a campfire. I've got a bear. So you're going to go ahead and add some elements. Now remember, the bare minimum is 2 teepees, 2 cones, drawn with that ellipse at the bottom so that we have that rounded bottom. I don't want to see any triangles. This is not a cone. That is a triangle. This is a cone. So it looks three-dimensional. It looks like it's round. This looks flat, like a triangle. So I want to see 2 teepees. I want to see that horizon line where the land meets the sky. And then I want to see 2 other elements. I want to see, anything. It could be an animal and a land, a nature element, or it could be a fire and a nature element. In this case, I have 5 extra elements. I have my 2 teepees, and then I have a mountain range. I have a river. I have some smoked meats, a campfire, and a bear. And then we'll add color next week. But for this week, I really want you to focus on these cones and drawing these teepees for your Native American landscape. All right, can't wait to see what you come up with.